Sutras. Three Sutras, the Hard Diamond and Platform Sutra. We just need to perform a reading right now, right? The noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, while practicing the practice of the person, look upon five senses, and seeing they were empty substances, he said, Putra. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form, emptiness is not separate from form, form is not separate from emptiness. Whatever is form is emptiness, whatever is emptiness is form. The same holds for cessation, perception, memory, and consciousness. Here said Putra, all the arms are defiled, defined by emptiness, not birth, or destruction, purity, or defilement. Completeness or deficiency, therefore said Putra. This emptiness, there is no form, no cessation, perception, memory, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, and no mind. No shape, no sound, no smell, no taste, no feeling, no thought, no way, no perception from eye, no concept of consciousness, no causal link. For ignorance to old age and death, or end of causal link. For ignorance to old age and death, no suffering, no stress, no relief, no path, no knowledge, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore said Putra, without attainment, besides the confusion, present paramita, only without walls of the mind, without walls of the mind, and thus without fears. They see through delusions and find nirvana, all Buddhas, past, present, and future, without taking refuge in the present paramita, and realize and celebrate enlightenment. You should therefore know the great mantra of Prajaparamita, the Mahavidya mantra, and excel the mantra able to indwell, which heals your suffering, and is true, not false. The mantra of Prajaparamita is spoken thus, gate, para gate, para sun gate, Lord Svaha. That's it. That's the Heart Sutra. Just a little bit. Diamond Sutra. That's very interesting. Just a little reading of the Diamond Sutra, right? As it shall be. Number 5. What do you think Subhuti cannot be seen by means of attributes? Subhuti replied, no, Bhagavan, cannot be seen by means of attributes. And why not? Bhagavan speaks of acquisition of attributes as the acquisition of no attributes. The Buddha then told Subhuti, since attributes are fiction, Subhuti no attributes would be not a fiction. Hence, by means of attributes, there are no attributes. The Tathagata can indeed be seen. Number 10. The Buddha said, Subhuti, what do you think? Did the Tathagata attain any such dharma in the presence of the Tathagata, the Arahant, the full enlightened one? Subhuti replied, no, Bhagavan, the Tathagata did not attain any such dharma in the presence of the Tathagata, the Arahant, the full enlightened one. The Buddha said, Subhuti, if any besides was true to this claim, I shall bring about the transformation of the Lord. Their claim would be untrue, and how so? A transformation of the word Subhuti, a transformation of the word is said by the Tathagata to be no transformation. Thus does he speak of the transformation of the word. Therefore, Subhuti, which side of his thoughts should not be attached to anything. Their thoughts should not be attached to sight, nor should their thoughts be attached to a sound, as may taste, the touch, nor dharma. Subhuti imagined a person with an immense perfect body, whose bodily existence is like a mountain of Sumru. What do you think Subhuti would? Such bodily existence would be great. Subhuti replied, it would be great, Bhagavan, such bodily existence would be great, Sabhata. And why? Because bodily existence, Bhagavan, bodily existence is better to be no existence. Thus does he speak of bodily existence. Just let's read another one. Number 3. The Buddha said to him, Subhuti, those who would not set forth the Bodhisattva path should think this thought. However many beings there are in the whatever realms or being might exist, whatever they are born from an egg or womb, or born from the water, born from the air, whatever they have form or no form, whatever they are able to perceive or not to perceive, nor need to perceive, nor no perceive, in whatever conceivable realm of being one might conceive of beings, in the realm of conditioned nirvana shall liberate now. And though that thus liberate countless beings, not a single being is liberated. And why not Subhuti, Bodhisattva, to whom the conception of being occurs cannot be called Bodhisattva? And why is that? Subhuti, no one can be called Bodhisattva who conceives of being a life or soul. Number 4. Moreover, Subhuti, when Bodhisattvas give a gift, they should not be attached to an object. When they give a gift, they should not be attached to anything at all. They should not be attached to sight when they give a gift, nor should they be attached to sound, smell, taste, or touch, or dharma when they give a gift. Thus, Subhuti, Bodhisattvas should give a gift without being attached to any idea of its characteristics. And why not? Subhuti, the body of merit of those Bodhisattvas who give a gift without being attached, is it easy to measure? Why do you think, Subhuti, is the space, the east, easy to measure? Subhuti replied, no, it isn't, Bhagavan. The Buddha said, likewise, in space, the south, to the west, to the north, between above, below, or any other directions, easy to measure. Subhuti replied, no, it isn't, Bhagavan. The Buddha said, it is in the same way, Subhuti, the body of merit of those Bodhisattvas who give a gift without being attached, isn't easy to measure. Thus, Subhuti, those who set forth the Bodhisattva path should give a gift without being attached to any idea of its characteristics. That's good. Number 9. Let's read it. What do you think, Subhuti? Does it occur to those who enter the river, have attained the goal of entering the river? Subhuti replied, no, Bhagavan, it does not occur to those who enter the river, have attained the goal of entering the river. And why not? Bhagavan did not enter any such dharma. Thus are they said to enter the river. They do not enter a sight, not they do enter a sound, a smell, a taste, a touch, or dharma. Thus are they said to enter a river. The Buddha said, what do you think, Subhuti? Does it occur to those who return once more, have attained the goal of returning once more? Subhuti replied, no, Bhagavan, it does not occur to those who return once more, have attained the goal of returning once more. Why not, Bhagavan? They do not attain any such dharma as return once more. Thus are they said to return once more. The Buddha said, what do you think, Subhuti? Does it occur to those who return once more? I have attained the goal of returning no more. Subhuti replied, no, Bhagavan. And why not? Bhagavan, they do not attain any such dharma as returning no more. Thus are they said to return no more. The Buddha said, what do you think, Subhuti? Does it occur to those who become free from rebirth, have attained the goal of freedom from rebirth? Subhuti replied, no, Bhagavan. Why not? Bhagavan, there is no such dharma as freedom from rebirth. Thus are they said to become free from rebirth. Bhagavan, it should occur to those who become free from rebirth. I have attained the goal of freedom from rebirth. Attachment to a self would occur. Attachment to a being, attachment to a life, attachment to a soul would occur. How so? Bhagavan, the Tathagata, the enlightened one, has declared that I am foremost among those who dwell free from passion. So I am free from rebirth and without desires. Bhagavan, I don't think I am free from rebirth without desires. Bhagavan, if I thought I have attained the goal of freedom from rebirth, the Tathagata would not have singled me out by saying it. Foremost among those who dwell free from passion is no son Subhuti, for he dwells nowhere at all. Thus he said to be one who dwells free of passion, who dwells free of passion. That's it. I think it's good. Just a fast reading, a little reading, theatrical reading, television reading of the Diamond Sutra. One more reading goes. And that's all. Thanks. More readings of the Prison Sutras, the Hard Diamond and Platform. Number 25. What do you think, Suburi? What do you think? Does it require target isolated beings? Surely, Suburi. Oh, no such being why not, Suburi? The being does not exist. Who is already by the target, Suburi? If any being really by the target would be attached to a self, he would be attached to a being, attached to a life, attached to a soul attachment. To self, Suburi, say by the target to be no attachment. Yet foolish people remain attached. Foolish people, Suburi, actually by the target to be no people. Does he speak of foolish people? 26, number 26, Suburi, what do you think? Can the target be seen by means of these attributes? Suburi replied, no need to Bhagavad, as the of the Buddha, what the Buddha says. The target cannot be seen by means of these attributes. The Buddha said, well done, Suburi, Suburi says, the target cannot be seen by means of these attributes. Why not, Suburi? If the target could be seen by means of these attributes, a universal king would be at the target. Hence, the target cannot be seen by means of these attributes. The Buddha then spoke two verses. Who looks for me in form, who seeks me in a voice, induces ways forward. Such people see me not. A Buddha is seen by means of the Dharma. The Dharma is the teacher's body. The Dharma itself isn't known, nor it can be known. And that is how. Number 27. Suburi, what do you think? Was it due to the decision of the abuse that the target realized and sell perfect enlightenment? Suburi, you should hold no such a view, and why not? Suburi, could not have been the decision of the abuse that the target realized and sell perfect enlightenment. Furthermore, Suburi, someone may claim those who set forth the path of destruction or end of some dharma. Suburi, you should hold no such view, and why not those set forth the path do not announce the destruction or end of any dharma? 28. Furthermore, Suburi, if a noble son or daughter took as many words that are grains of sand in the Ganges and covered them with the seven treasures, and gave them as gifts to the Tathagatas, the Arhants, to the fully enlightened ones, and the Buddha had gained it, and accepted a selfless of the selfless, gain acceptance of the selfless, worthless natures of dharmas, the body of merit produces result would be immensely, infinitely greater. And yet, Suburi, this freedom Bodhisattva would not require body merit. The Venerable Buddha said, but surely, Bhagavan, this Bodhisattva would require body merit. The Buddha's reply, then would, Suburi, but without becoming attached to it. Thus do I speak of acquiring it. That's okay. More readings of the Diamond Sutra. Number 29. Furthermore, Suburi, anyone should claim that the target goes or comes, or stands or sits, or lies down, Suburi, they do not understand the meaning of my words. Why not? Suburi, those who are called the targets do not go anywhere, nor do they come from anywhere. Thus they are called the targets, are the fully enlightened ones. Number 30. Furthermore, Suburi, even also more that took as many words of their respects of the living word invested by its weight of limits energy ground. They need to atoms, Suburi, but they think would there be a great pile of atoms? Suburi replied, there would be, Bhagavan. So there would, Sugata. There would be a great pile of atoms. And how so? If a great pile of atoms existing, Bhagavan, the target would not have spoken of a pile of atoms. And why not, Bhagavan? This pile of atoms of which the target speaks is said by the target to be no pile. Thus does he speak of a pile of atoms. Also, Bhagavan, this being more the universe of which the target speaks is said by the target to be no universe. Thus does he speak of a being more the universe. And also, Bhagavan, if a universe existing attached to an entity would exist. But whenever the target speaks of attachment to an entity, the target speaks of no attachment. Thus does he speak of an attachment to an entity. But the Buddha said, Suburi, an attachment to an entity is nonsensical, inexplicable. Yet foolish people are attached. And that's all. One more reading of the Diamond Sutra, all about the Buddha of the ending time, and that is amazing. 31. Also, Suburi, if someone should claim that the target speaks of yourself, or the target speaks of you, of a being, of your life, of your soul, would such claim be untrue, Suburi? Suburi said, no, Bhagavan, no indeed, Sugata, such a claim would not be true, and why not? Bhagavan, when the target speaks of yourself, the target speaks of is no view. Thus does it speak of yourself. The Buddha said, indeed, Suburi, so it is. Those who set forth for the Buddha's path should no view believe in the same dharmas, but do so without being attached to the idea of a dharma. And why not the idea of a dharma, Suburi, the idea of a dharma? He said, by the target to be no idea, thus does it speak of the idea of a dharma. And that's all. 32. Furthermore, if a phrase was said, measures infinity words with the seven treasures, and his offering, a noble son or daughter took by the single four-line verse of this teaching of Prajnapada, memorized it, made it known, recited, mastered, explained it, take waters, the body of merit produced, as a result by a noble son or daughter would be mentioned infinity greater. And how should it explain it? By not explaining. Thus should explain it. As a lamp that catches a shooting star, an illusion to drop, a bubble, a dream, a cloud of flesh and light, and view how created things like these. All these were spoken by the Buddha to the light of the elders, the monks, the nuns, the laymen, the laywomen of the devils, the human asuras, and Gandharvas. All the world were also greatly pleased with what the Buddha said. And that's all. One more fast reading of the Diamond Sutra. Thanks for all. The protecting original 100 verses of reason. Present Sataka says, reason is with good quality, seen and not yet seen. To achieve both of these, embrace reason, the great source of what you seek, and for liberation is knowledge. So esteem it from the start, their reason, the great mother. As the first 100 perfection of reason in the 8,000 line states, reason functions like an eye for the other 5 perfections, etc. When the other perfections are completed by reason, they acquire their eye and fulfill their name. Just as painting may be complete except for the eyes, but until the eyes are drawn, no weight is obtained. This is what the glorious original companions of perfection says. The merit of generosity is so far more powerful, with reason as a reward, just as an array of fine gold jewelry shines more brightly when inset with use. It is this reason that renders vast capacity for virtue in the proposal of which one. Just as the mind's action power clearly displays respective objects of the sensory faculties, similar reason is also true for other faculties such as faith and so on. When reason is present as Lord, you are generous to faith, etc. Understand by the merit of virtue and the faults of stimulus and so forth. So you become skilled at eliminating afflictions and increasing good qualities. The companion of perfection states, among the various faculties in faith of so on, reason's chief as the mind of is to the sensory faculties. With reason's Lord, you know what is a fault and what merit. So you're skilled in the method of eliminating afflictions. The comparative perfection states, once Bodhisattvas have opened the clear eye of reason, even when they give their own flesh without a thought, they never feel high or low about it, as if they were cutting a medical plant, a medicine plant. And also, intelligent ones do not practice ethical discipline for their own aims. They see the flaws in the creation of sacred existence and aspire to release the entire world from it. So, of course, they do not practice the mundane aims. And also, injury done to the wise is not harmful, because they possess the good quality of patience, like the best of very tame elephants, who are patient with many different tasks, perseverance by itself ends in exhaustion. If aided by its ally, wisdom is achievement, achieves great purposes. And also, how could supreme delight and bliss of such meditative civilizations be established in the minds of crude people who rely upon reasoning that has led them to a wrong path, that is polluted by great fault of committed errors? Thus, the continued perfection states, even both sideless possessors of great kingdoms, have sense objects similar to divine substances remain incorporated in their very nature. This is the power of heaven, the virtue of wisdom as the minister. The law that separately from helping others is utterly free of stain from attachment. The compassion able to bear for others to suffer never succumbs to laziness due to the burden of distress. Possessed of supreme joy did not wander, not waver from the view. Their great impartiality never neglects the welfare of beings. The great wisdom removes all that would contract. This good qualities and so it purifies them. Matseta, praising honors of one worthy of honor. Varnarha, Varna Stotra also says, without rejecting the real nature, you are also in accord with the conventional. Thus, you do not have to forsake the real nature that gives great certainty that there is not even an atom of what your cognitive process apprehends as signs of true existence. And you are also in accord with and do not contradict the conventional that gives deep certainty that effects arise from the respective internal and external causes and conditions. For others, this appears to totally exclude each other, but for those who have wisdom, there is compatibility and lack of contradiction. The praise in honor of one worthy of honor states, regarding our prescriptions and prohibitions, some of your word is definitive, while some of it is not. But between these, there is no contradiction. There are limitless things that the unwise see as contradictory, and the wise see as lacking contradictions. The presentation of these two truths, and the many prescriptions in one scripture that are prohibitions in others, and vice versa. That's just a little reading of the Great Ties and Stages of the Path of Enlightenment, Volume 2. That's it. The Great Ties and Stages of the Path of Enlightenment, Volume 2. Laziness, indulgence, and rise of combat friends. Being governed by sleep, no feeling for discernment. No interest in stages, most supreme reason. Acquire under the influence of false pride. Lacking the faith to rely upon one person's due attachment to self and feelings of democracy. The great poison of false concepts which are wrong views. These are causes of confusion. Therefore, as the companion of perfection says, serve as an age guru, worthy of trust instead of achieve wisdom. Little studies like blindness, you do not know how to meditate. Without study, what could there to be reflected upon? Therefore, from the cause of making an authority study, meditate in accord with reflection, thereby gain best wisdom. The Dharma Tree also says in the Supreme Continuum, the conceptualization of the three spheres are said to be cognitive observations, while conceptualizations such as stimulus and like are said to be reflective observations. So the wisdom is the cause of the elimination of nothing else. So wisdom supreme studies by its basis. So study supreme. Instead of contentious of training rest, success on Kaka says. Before being in study, stay in the forest and then persevere at meditative plus. Without commentary companion of trainings to this says. With impatience you become disheartened, cannot forbear, so you perseverance at study, etc. declines. And without study you do not know the means for primitive civilization or for clearing away afflictions. Therefore without becoming disheartened study. And the questions for Narayana form. Narayana Parapscripture. Dharani also says, just so tired of good lineage if you study wisdom will come. If you're possessed of wisdom, the afflictions will be still. Once you have no afflictions, demon do not have a chance with you. That's good, just another part of the Great Treatise on the Stages of the Path of Enlightenment, Volume 2. That's good. The Great Treatise on Stages of the Path of Enlightenment, Volume 2. Laziness, indulgence, and rise of combat friends. Being governed by sleep, no feeling for discernment. No interest in stages, most supreme reason. Acquire under the influence of false pride. Lacking the faith to rely upon one person's due attachment to self and feelings of democracy. The great poison of false concepts which are wrong views. These are the causes of confusion. Therefore, as the companion of perfection says, serve as an age guru, worthy of trust instead of achieve wisdom. Little studies like blindness, you do not know how to meditate. Without study, what could there to be reflected upon? Therefore, from the cause of making an authority study, meditate in accord with reflection, thereby gain best wisdom. The Dharma Tree also says in the Supreme Continuum, the conceptualization of the three spheres are said to be cognitive observations, while conceptualizations such as stimulus and like are said to be reflective observations. So the wisdom is the cause of the elimination of nothing else. So wisdom supreme studies by its basis. So study supreme. Instead of contentious of training rest, success on Kaka says. Before being in study, stay in the forest and then persevere at meditative plus. Without commentary companion of trainings to this says. With impatience you become disheartened, cannot forbear, so you perseverance at study, etc. declines. And without study you do not know the means for primitive civilization or for clearing away afflictions. Therefore without becoming disheartened study. And the questions for Narayana form. Narayana Parapscripture. Dharani also says, just so tired of good lineage if you study wisdom will come. If you're possessed of wisdom, the afflictions will be still. Once you have no afflictions, demon do not have a chance with you. That's good, just another part of the Great Treatise on the Stages of the Path of Enlightenment, Volume 2. That's good. One more reading, the Great Treatise on the Stage of the Path of Enlightenment. Therefore, those of who want what is best for self should eliminate such mistaken convictions as though getting rid of poison. Not Jobá sem você, Jobobá. When it comes to accomplish the state of omniscience enlightenment, whatever you show off or conceal that you studied on a handbook, you cannot get anywhere without reading a X load of books. Fuchungba, place them up in sacred text, Realspiritlink said. We must learn the text, so even though we do not get a chance to read them, make a wish to read them now. If someone said that you should practice the teaching without understanding it, how would you do it? Bodova said 3 times to a monk in Jengala. Spiansgaba. So, who was escorting him a short distance? You are enjoying yourself too much, he then continued. You rely upon my teacher who is like the sky covering the earth, so do not elevate other teachers. Since you do not have to read the rules texts and their commentaries and mark the corresponding passages, you do not have a lot of work. You are happy because you do not think about cause and effect while you work at certain activities by means of certain tantric practices, and you can be satisfied with these many things. Sharava said. Until you become a Buddha, your studies are not finished. They are finished when you are Buddha. Kamaba said, some say when you practice the teachings, what need is there of knowledge, and they just degenerate. This is a real danger for those of us who have little to study little. Others say, if you really try, you do not need knowledge. This is very dangerous. If you're making a belief that the teaching, knowledge is required. Since it's not completed, in this brief lifetime we must resolve how we study continually, too many lifetimes without improving the succession of lives, having zero opportunity. Some think that meditators do not need to study, only those who explain the teachings do. But those who explain the teachings and do not study merely, when it while it's precisely the meditator who study, who must study, otherwise strain the path. From the path. Right. Sharava said, until you become a Buddha, your studies are not finished. They're finished when you become a Buddha. Kamaba said, some say when you practice the teaching, what need is there of knowledge, and they generate. This idea is a real danger for those of us who have studied little. Others say, if you really try, you do not need knowledge. This is very dangerous. If you are making before that the teaching and knowledge is required, since it's not complete in this brief lifetime, we must resolve. I will still continue to remain lifetimes without interrupting the session of lives, having leisure and opportunity. Some think that meditators do not study this study. Only those who explain the teachings do. But those who explain the teachings and do not study merely run the risk of sinning. Why? It's precisely the meditator who must study with wise training from the path. That's it. Just another one. Thanks. Another reading of the Great Treatise on Stages of the Path of Enlightenment, Volume 2. Engage with what it says. If you drop a sword in battle, all of you quickly pick it up, lock eyes. If I lose my weapon of mindfulness in fear of how I could retrieve it, to protect the Narajuna and his friendly letter also taught the great importance of mindfulness. O Lord, so God, that glad mindfulness of the body to be one, path to follow, hold fast to it and guard it. When mindfulness declines, all virtues perish. Furthermore, regarding the object to which mindfulness attains, mindfulness apprehends an object that wisdom has fully discerned. Mindfulness does not distinguish its object on its own. What does wisdom discern? In general, wisdom discerns everything to be adopted and everything to be cast aside, as explained in Scripture. In particular, it discerns what is to be adopted, what is to be cast aside, according to the vows that you have taken. Therefore, once you apply mindfulness and vigilance to these, you will complete your practice. You will not be successful by just applying mindfulness and vigilance within the narrow confines of attention to object and meditation. What is more, when warriors are in battle, they strive from the beginning not to lose the sword. When by chance they drop it, they pick it up immediately. These two actions rest on fear of being killed, that is not mere words. Likewise, those who cultivate the path are afraid to lose mindfulness, that does not forget what is to be adopted and what to be eliminated. Even if they lose it, they immediately reply it. These two actions are based on development of their minds of a real terror of falling invisible realms as a result of the pollution of refractions and false that occur when mindfulness lapses. These, in turns, depend on having made karma and its effects central to the practice and then sustained the approach. Those who fail to develop the awareness at these points are performing instructions severely with good qualities ensuing from the practice that delights that learn a safe foundation of the path. Well, why is it necessary to look with fear upon even minor misbehavior and not let it continue but immediately stop it? Take the example of a person with arrow that makes a time surface one. Before long, the poison from this one will spread to all entire body. You must operate on the wound and remove the poison. Similarly, even when wrong behavior does not make anything more than a small wound in the mind, if you ignore it, it will quickly pervade your mind so that it becomes large. Therefore, from starting, you must prevent wrongdoing before it takes place. And if it does happen, you must discontinue it immediately. Engage in the with the states. Just as poison spreads throughout the body carried by blood, so fault pervades the mind if it finds an opportunity. Just as poison spreads throughout the body carried by blood, so fault pervades the mind if it finds an opportunity. How do those who want victory over the afflictions of by mindfulness and vigilance? You must concentrate, just engage in the states. A practitioner must be concentrated someone carrying a pot full of oil, who's fearful when a swordsman before him to kill him if he spills a drop. Right. That's just another reading of the book, The Greater Title Stage of the Path of Enlightenment, Volume 2. Thanks. Yes. Sure, that's it. Another reading. The Greater Title Stage of the Path of Enlightenment, Volume 2. When I say this with scripture statement with respect to the border region, story of Katyayana. While you are concentrated in general, you should behave wrongly, and in particular, you should experience the cause of lessons such as lipness, etc. Then you must not assent to them, but must confront and avert them. Engage with such states. Thus, if a snake came into our lap and you would have to stand up, just so if his lips and English come could avert them. Furthermore, not merely something false, but actively feel displeasure at heaven and endure it. The path follows because I proceeded in this way in the past as well. I have been wondering this at all, particularly especially when worth that I have taken the bodhisattva vows and yet concluded things that are incompatible with laws perhaps. It becomes part of henceforth of strange self-thinking. From now on, I shall make sure that this fault never occurs. Frequently employ both attitudes. These attitudes. Engage with such says. Whenever fault occurs, I will put myself on one corner. But I means I do whatever it takes so that this shall never happen again. Strive at any deep cause that give rise to the continued powerful mindfulness. That is the root of practice. Of this practice. Reliance on activities as keeping the company of excellent teachers and exciting independence and broad learning. Which are the causes of this powerful mindfulness in this vein, engaging both of these states. In every situation, I will practice mindfulness with this motive aspiring to be teachers, engaging in inappropriate activities. In summary, you must study and discern where what the requires you to adopt and cast aside, and enjoy specific continuous being mindful in all your conduct of what you have understood about what to adopt and what cast aside. Hence, it is extremely important not to worry about what which you are to persevere, how to use joy's perseverance to make your mind and body serviceable. The method for using joy's perseverance to make your mind and body serviceable in power of mastery. Since the Buddha sets forth in the chapter of conscientiousness, engaging both activities in the sense of learning both training is extremely great consequence if you do not train in these ones you have pleasure to do so. How to regard the afflictions of the enemy and the ways to generate the courage that looks upon the hardships of battling the afflictions as an ornament rather than as a burden. Meditate on this before taking up the task of training both activities. To stop now inhibitions that prevent you from using your body, mind, and virtuous activity. Rise gladly to the task. Engage both activities says, in order to have strength for everything before engaging in activity, I will weak out advice and conscientiousness, and then gladly rise to the task. What form of the joy's perseverance produced by such a full stake? Just as wind drives a piece of cotton to and fro, and joyful energy ensues it for virtue controls your body and mind. When you act along with this energy, joy's perseverance is well established. Once you produce this, you will easily achieve all the collections. Engage both activities says, just like cotton, the power of wind that blows to and fro, so I will be driven by enthusiasm. In this way, I will accomplish all. Although such tasks are difficult, it is wrong to give them up. Rather, as the Goddess Mother said, that praising 150 verses 6, you must take your fort. The sublime state is difficult to reach, it's not attained without hardship. Knowing this, you intensify your joy's perseverance without concern for yourself. How to practice? You must practice any kind of joy's perseverance in association with the 6 supremacies. How 6 perfections. The rest of joy's perseverance is established in orders, and joy's perseverance that you have established yourself. Remain perfection and acquired with the early explanations. Right? I think that is it. Just one more. Fine. Engage with such states. I shall conquer all. Nothing shall defeat me. I, a child of the victorious line, shall continue to have pride. Otherwise, if you lose courage, even a small control factor will harm you. Engage with such states. Even crowds like a government when it finds a dying snake. If I am feeble, even a slight shortcoming will harm me. How can one gives up this courage find freedom from institution? Shall have said. The happiness of those who cast aside the teaching does not exceed the happiness. Before doing so, consider the fact that if you give up the teaching, does not time must have to undergo the suffering. If you make no effort, the afflictions will not look upon you with compassion. Also, remedy will not say you are unable to cultivate me. So we complete the task for you. Even the goods and good sets will not be able to protect you. If your pride of formation, 3 prides, even great equal factors can block you, so you must generate these 3 kinds of pride. Engage what it says. Against one who strives with pride, even great obstacles will be in trouble, so we have a steadfast mind and overcome the shortcomings. Otherwise, if practitioners are defeated by shortcomings, the desire to conquer the afflictions of the 2 realms will be an embarrassment among the learned. If I am defeated by shortcomings, my desire to conquer the 2 realms is a joke. It's called the pride about afflictions, because you have contempt for afflictions and then you want to destroy them. Some commentators to engage in both activities explain this pride about afflictions differently, but I think the above explanation causes the test. To stop exceeding something from others and put on the armor of the unit alone. That is, be confident that thinking like the others cannot do it, I can do it. When you practice with this perspective, you're sure that you will defeat the afflictions, that they will never defeat you. When you consider that it would be a mistake to abandon your commitment after a while. Train yourself until your mind is steadfast and the desire to finish everything to which you have committed yourself, that you have carefully examined whether you can do it. Develop the power of joy. You develop the joy of the power of aspiration. This yearning produces joyous perseverance, not present, and you have achieved the power of steadfastness, that's called the power of pride, which allows the perseverance that has already developed to be reversible. The power of joy means that when you first engage in activity, you do it joyfully. And once you have engaged, you have a sense of being satiated. Such a one that you do not want to discontinue the activity. With respect to how you develop the sense of insatiability and engage with what it says. Like those who want to pleasure that result from play, with such as passionate about an activity that they have to do, insatiable with take joy in their work. The greater joys and stages of the path of enlightenment. The perfection of joyous perseverance. Always rely upon noble joyous perseverance, which clears the way of suffering and darkness, which is the base of freedom from miserable realms, and which is praised by the Buddhists. One who is joyless persevere has no difficulty accomplishing a project, but the mundane supermundane, one mundane is deserted by choice perseverance. Those set forth for the Buddha's enlightenment perceive the faults of lethargy and weakness, and they continue to persevere with enthusiasm, so have I advised them. Also, don't omit for Maya Sutra states, joyous perseverance is supreme among virtues. Based on it, you subsequently attain the rest, through it you immediately gain supreme state of joy as well as the mundane and supermundane attainments. With joyous perseverance, you attain the pleasure desired in life, became possessed of utility, while the great concern in the view of person aggregates in which would hold the supreme enlightenment. And also, one who has joyous perseverance, it not brought down, by prosperity afflictions, course, petty attainments, but at levels as well says. Because joyous perseverance alone, nothing else, is the principle and highest cause for the great attainment of the concept of virtuous qualities, the target I have pointed out, the current joyous perseverance is what brings about the attainment of the surpassed and perfect enlightenment. The comparative perfection also states, if you're free of fatigue and have reached joyous perseverance, there's nothing you cannot attain or accomplish. And also, even in all human beings, delight in helping you. You attain all types of meditative occupations, and spend all periods of the day and night fruitfully. Your collection of good qualities not declining, and your purpose surpassing the affairs of humankind. Flourish like a good pile of power. As to the fault of not jealous persevering, the questions of Sagaramachi Sutra states, the enlightenment of the lazy is seen far off and distant. The lazy like all perfections from generous wisdom. The lazy not to work for others' welfare. The mindfulness of the excellent teaching, Sada Manusmriti, Upastana, states as well, whoever has laziness, the single base of afflictions, whoever feels some laziness, lacks all good qualities. Because if you lack joyous perseverance, you come under the influence of laziness and become poor in your good qualities, so you lose ever temporary ultimate purpose of being human. For the sake of relieving suffering of a single living being, I would rejoice at remembering as hell being, until I did Buddhahood, as I said myself, it is meant for the sake of complete enlightenment, what need is there to mention my perseverance over a short period or in the face of lesser suffering. That's all. The 24th chapter of Compilation Reading says that which arise dependent on experience emptiness. This emptiness depends designation. This is the middle way, because there's no phenomenon that's not dependent arising, there's no phenomenon that is not empty. Thus, Nagarjuna says that dependent arising is necessarily of intrinsic existence, but not to understand on his head by claiming that what is produced depends on cause and conditions must intrinsically exist. Similar Nagarjuna rotation of objections says, for whoever emptiness makes sense, everything makes sense. For whoever emptiness makes no sense, nothing makes any sense. I bow down to the Buddha, that inequality supreme teacher, who taught that emptiness dependent arising in the way held a single meaning. Also, Nagarjuna said this emptiness, Sunyata Sapati says, the inequality target thought that beings, because all things are empty of intrinsic nature, things are dependent arising. Also, Nagarjuna's existence of reason says, those who cling to the self or to the world, as though these were not contingent to Western views of permanence and permanence. Those who claim that dependent arising exist in reality, how can they avoid false permanence and so forth? Those who hold the contingent things like a more effect in water are neither real nor real. They're not captivated by such views. Also, Nagarjuna praise of the transcendent one. Lokatita Stava says, logicians claim that suffering is produced from self or from another, or from both of those, or without the cause. You see that arises dependently, hold that whatever arises dependent is empty, there's nothing to or roar. Things do not exist on their own. Those Nagarjuna says that exercise because of being dependent arises from empty of intrinsic existence. This explanation that dependent arises means of emptiness, that is to say, the absence of intrinsic existence in existence of Nagarjuna protector. Therefore, dependent arising does not mean accepted emptiness. The absence of intrinsic existence for oneself is mighty weak, while even teachings of dependent arising cause effect towards because one is uncomfortable with having then only one sound system. For Nagarjuna's statement, fundamentalized for those who don't make sense, means that all dependent arising of cyclic existence and nirvana are admissible in a system that teaches the absence of intrinsic existence. Just another reading the great Tyson stages of left enlightenment. Dependent arising and emptiness. Right, let's start here. For those to whom this emptiness of intrinsic existence, all things make sense. Everything that is being mentioned also makes sense. Why? Because we call dependent arising emptiness. Does dependent arising make sense in a system in which emptiness makes sense? The four noble truths are reasonable for those to whom dependent arising makes sense. Why? Because only what arises dependently can be suffering, not what does not arise dependently. Since what arises dependently lacks intrinsic nature, it is empty. Once there is suffering, then the origins of suffering, cessation of suffering, the paths leading to the cessation of suffering also makes sense. Therefore, the rough understanding of suffering, the nation of origins of cessation of cessation, and cultivation of paths also makes sense. When there is the rough understanding, etc., of the truth of suffering, etc., then it makes sense that there will be spiritual results. Once there are results, then it makes sense that there are people who have achieved those results. This in turn implies the possibility of people who are approaching those results. Once there are people approaching and achieving those results, then the community is possible. When the noble truth exists, then the sublime teaching also makes sense. When the sublime teaching and community exists, then the Buddhism is possible as well. Therefore, its Jews also makes sense. All profound knowledge of everything mundane and supermundane makes sense. Proper and proper conduct the results of that. Happy and miserable rebirths and all worldly conventions make sense as well. Therefore, that way Nagarjuna says, for those to whom emptiness makes sense, everything makes sense. If emptiness did not make sense, then dependent arising would not exist, and so nothing would make sense. Therefore, you should understand that what makes sense and what does not make sense here refer to whether those things exist. As I earlier, objection by essentially is that during negation of repetition objections. If all things are completely without intrinsic nature, then your words also lack intrinsic nature, and thus cannot refute intrinsic existence. The master Nagarjuna clearly answers that functionality is tenable within the context of absence of intrinsic existence. In repetition objections, we propose that the dependent arising of things is called emptiness. That which arises dependent has no intrinsic nature. Also, Nagarjuna also commented on the repetition objections, Vigraha, Vya, Vartini, Vritti, he says, failing to comprehend the emptiness of things, you essentially look for something to criticize, and argue against the Madhyamika your words lack intrinsic nature, and therefore cannot refute intrinsic nature existing of things. Here in Madhyamaka, the dependent arising of things is emptiness. Why? Because they lack intrinsic nature. Those things that arise dependently are not associated with intrinsic nature because they lack intrinsic nature. Why? Because they rely on cause and conditions. If they had intrinsic nature, then they wouldn't exist even without cause and conditions. Since such is not the case, they lack intrinsic nature. Therefore, we speak them as empty. Similarly, my words are also dependent arising, therefore without intrinsic nature. Because they lack intrinsic nature, it's reasonable to say that they are empty. Because things such as sports and clothes are dependent arising, they are empty of intrinsic nature. Yet the pot can receive honey, water, soap, a cloth can protect from cold, wind, and sun, and so forth. It's my words, because they are dependent arising, lack intrinsic nature. Yet they are fully capable of establishing that things lack intrinsic existence. Therefore, it's inappropriate for you to give the argument because your words lack intrinsic nature. It's not tenable that they refute intrinsic existence of all things. I think that is it. Just another part of the Greek treatise on the death of enlightenment, volume 3, right? Dependent arising and emptiness. And that's what makes sense. Right? Just one more. If you hold that dependent production and dependent cessation have to be essentially existent, and you use the arguments against intrinsic existence to refute the dependent rise of cessation, then those arguments, like a God transformed into a demon, will be a tremendous obstacle to finding a great understanding of Madhyamaka. In that case, when you develop a sense of certainty that phenomena like even a particle of essential or intrinsic nature, you then have no basis for developing certain knowledge of the relationship because cause and effect within your own system, you have deposited those as others see them, etc. Or if you develop a sense of certainty about cause and effect within your own system, then it will be possible for your system to force certain knowledge of that sense of intrinsic existence. You have to find some other way to construe what the Buddha meant in speaking of that sense of intrinsic existence. If in this case, then you would must understand that you have not yet found the Madhyamaka theory. what will help you to find the right view. As a base, you should be pure in upholding your ethical commitments. Then strive in many ways to accumulate the collections of merit and wisdom and clear way obscurations. Rely on the learner, making effort to study and reflect upon their instructions. Since certainty about appearance and certainty about emptiness almost never develop together, it is extremely difficult to find the muddy mark of view. This is what Nagarjuna meant in the 24th chapter of the Fundamental Ties. Therefore, knowing that those of limited intelligence would have difficulty understanding the depths of his teaching, the mind of the sage turned away from giving this teaching. Nagarjuna Precious Garland says, when the impurity of this body, which is cursed, directly observable, and continually appearing, does not stay with the mind, then how could the excellent teachings, which has no basis, it is not immediately apparent, and its most subtle and profound reason came to mind? Realize that because its profoundity to this teaching is difficult to understand, the sage, when he became a Buddha, turned away from giving this teaching. Thus, the scriptures state that it is very difficult to understand the profound view. Failing to reach such knowledge of both appearances and emptiness, some mistaken meaning of the statements in certain authoritative texts that demonstrate the absence of this existence. Via rational analysis, whether parts and such are one with or different from the parts. Analyzing whether something such as a pot is any of its parts, such as its lip or neck, did not find it to be any of those. This leads then to a sense of certainty that there is no pot here. Then apply the same analysis to the analyzer. They become certain that there is also an analyzer here. They then wonder if the analyzer is not to be found, then who is that? Knows that parts and such do not exist. So they say things are neither existence nor non-existent. If the false certainty brought on by this sort of counterfeit reasoning were considered a case of finding a view, then gaining that view would seem to be the existing in the world. Therefore, intelligence should develop an unshakable certainty that the very meaning of temperature is dependent on horizon. This is what is said to be definitive in the definitive scriptures and in the pure Madhyamaka texts, which are ties that comment on the intended meaning of those definitive scriptures. This is a distinctive feature that Madhyamaka experts. Specifically, this is the subtle point of noble truth, noble Nagarjuna and his spiritual son Deva had in mind, and upon which the master Buddhapad and the glorious Kundakar gave fully comprehensive commentary. This is how the planet horizon bestows certain knowledge of the absence of intrinsic existence. This is how it drowns on you, that is, things which are devoid of intrinsic existence, that are causes and effects. That's it. Just one more. Okay. Great ties the stage of path and line of volume 2. The perfection of patience. The compassion of perfection says, it's patience is the best approach for dealing with inclination to disregard others' welfare. Patience against the fault of anger protects all that is excellent in this world. Patience is the best ornament of the powerful. The greatest strength for those who practice asceticism, and the stream of water on the wildfire of malice. Patience clears away much harm in these and future lives. The arrow of undisciplined people's words are delivered by secure being, armor of patience. These humble people then give pleasant flowers of praise, which become attractive grounds of fame. And also patience is also the craftsman that creates a Buddha's embodiment of form, adorned with the beautiful signs of good qualities. Because Arisura praises patience by way of its many benefits. It stops you from turning away from others' welfare on account of living beings' misperceptions. It protects you from anger, the enemy that destroys many roots of future. It's a captivating ornament because it endures the harm of those of little power. It is the silent strength of ascetics who are tormented by afflictions. It is a stream of water that distinguishes the wildfire of malice. It is the armor that cannot be pierced by the arrows of undisciplined persons' misperceptions. It's a skilled artisan who creates a fine form of golden color that captivates the eye of minds of beings. Furthermore, engaging puts up to the states. Whoever works hard and overcomes anger is happy in this and future lives. When you rely on patience continually, do not spoil your joyful attitude, so you are always happy in this life. Moreover, patience stops miserable rebirths in future lives, gives special births and happy realms, and ultimately bestows certain goodness, so you are earthly happy in these and future lives. Meditation benefits until you gain strong, fierce intent about cause and effect relationship, wherein benefits such as these arise from patience. With respect to the faults of anger, the invisible faults or false follows. Engage in both these states. In good deeds such as generosity and worship in the cigaras, have collected over 1,000 eons, and I'll destroy no one with anger. I'll formulate this exactly as it is presented in Engaged Bodhisattva Deeds, the play of Manjuri Sutra. Manjuri Vikridita Sutra mentions the destruction of virtue accumulated over 100 eons, and also conducted commentary on the midway says that virtue accumulated over 100 eons is conditioned perfection, generosity, and that is destroyed even by the generation of just a momentary anger. Thought. Concerning who or what the recipient of such destructive anger must be, some say that it must be Bodhisattva, while others said that it is recipient in general. The form accords with the statement commentary on the midway. Therefore, among the Venator or the conquered tribe, destroys the virtue arising from generosity and ethical discipline accumulated over 100 eons. That's it. Just one more piece. Just one more reading of the Great Transcendental Stages of Path to Enlightenment, Volume 2. Thus, the visible faults of anger are that it projects some fruitions which are extremely pleasant, and that it prevents the rise of the miserable, very pleasant fruitions of its opposite virtue. The faults of anger visible in this lifetime are that you do not experience a peaceful and good mind. The joy and happiness that you had previous to depression, you cannot regain them, and you cannot sleep well, and you weaken this stability wherein your mind stays calm. When you have great hatred, even those for whom you formerly cared forget your kindness and kill you. Even friends and relatives regret and annoyed and leave you. Although you care others with your generosity, they will not stay, and so on. Engage in both of these states. In the grasp of the mental pains of hate, your mind does not experience peace. You do not find joy or happiness. It does not come, and you become unstable. Even those who depend on a master who cares for them, either wealth and service, will overcome and keep a master who gets angry. His anger disheartens friends, though he gathers people with gifts, they will not serve him, and with no angry person is happy. The guardian of the beautiful stories also says, when your complexion is exploited by the fire of anger, you cannot look good. To adorn jelly, you may sleep on a good bed, but your mind suffers a sharp pain of anger. You forget to achieve goals and beneficial to yourself, tormented by anger. You take an evil path. You ruin the achievement of your aims and your good name. Your grandeur face like the waning moon. Though your friends love you, you fall into the knives of wrong. Looking your intelligence about what is helpful and what's harmful, you mostly transgress and your mind becomes confused. Through anger, and you are accustomed to sinful acts. So you suffer for 100 years in miserable realms. What harm greater than this could be done? Even by enemies avenging the great harm you have done. This anger is the inner enemy. I know it to be so. Who can bear its proliferation? Meditate until you are firmly convinced that grave consequences such as these arise from anger. Thus engage both of these states. There is no sin like hatred, no fortitude like patience. Therefore endlessly cultivate patience in a variety of ways. That's all. Reading of the book, The I Ching, the Book of Changes. Limitation. One third chosen limits empower your growth. The practice of economy is available in every way in life. In your financial dealings, a reasonable practice today assures you of opportunity tomorrow. In your most life, the practice of balance and economy allows steady spiritual growth, progress. The hexagram Chia comes as an encouragement to set practical limits throughout your life. Life lived without guidelines is confusing and troubling. In order to make genuine progress in the direction, we must first give some definition of our path. However, limits that are overstrained are not helpful. Having too many rules causes rebellion in the one on whom they are imposed, whether oneself or another. Therefore, there must be limits even on one's limits. To yourself, the setting of limits means defining your proposals for limits, so that you have a clear idea of where your energies are to be aimed. Your limits should be determined by yourself, not another, or the future in which you live. Avoid harshness and impatience with yourself to progress and make major steps. Allow yourself pleasure, but avoid causes. indulgence, with others place limits both on your own actions and indulgence you offer them. To encourage others if you require this to invite misfortune. Allows your interactions with others to take place within limits of gentleness, tolerance, and innocence. If you define and observe reasonable limits in all things, you will be assured of steady progress. A desired development is still constrained. Recognize limitations and avoid forceful actions help comes to a disciplined person. When obstacles the soul, seize the day. Anxious excitations cause stagnations. Do not engage in egoistical extravagance. Follow the truth without other ambitions. Correct your mistakes as you become aware of them. Accept natural limitations where there is an opening, go forward with balance. When the way is closed, withdraw willingly into stillness. Any limitation you would impose on another must first be accepted and practice it by yourself. Be gentle, innocent, and truthful in all things now. Avoid surrendering with others at all costs. Be gentle with yourself unless a strong hand is necessary to ensure your correctness. Move toward truth without swerving. That's good, the I Ching. Yeah, limitation. I'm reading up the I Ching, the book of changes. See alcohol. Preponderance of this law. In a great storm, the wise bird returns to their nest and waits patiently. This is a time of difficult and dangerous conditions. You should not be seduced into struggling strive or seeking solutions through aggressive action. Successes meet only by waiting modestly for the guidance of the creative. Trying times are a test for alpha integrity and commitment to proper discipline principles. The ordinary person reacts to challenges with fear, anger, mistrust of fate, and stubborn, and desire to strike and eliminate difficult once and for all. While the temptation to act in this way can be great to the soul, can only lead to misfortune to the laws of hard and won ground. The way of the superior person is faced with difficult is that of no action rather than action. She does not strive after recognition or resolution or attempt to gain a higher position by conquering others. The statue retreats into her center and cultivates humility, patience, and conscientiousness. And on the path of acceptance, self-inquiry, and self-improvement, we obtain the aid of the creative and meet with success after the storm has passed. Trying to fly before its time causes one to fall. How to no action and allow the creative to do its work. The situation is not ready to be resolved. The way is shown to one who waits modestly and patiently. The time calls for great care and do not relax into wasteful behaviors. Persevering in what is correct and refer to results. The temptation to act harshly wells up. Do not give in to your inferiors by yelling the matter to the sage. You meet with good fortune. One cannot succeed without the aid of others. Seek company and the counsel of those who are sincerely devoted to high truth. Pressing forcefully and modestly invites disaster. Returns to the path of humility and devotion to proper principles. And a great misfortune will be avoided. One more of I Ching. That's good. The great masters of ancient time foxed and discernible, but it's really dark. You would never know then, because you wouldn't know then. I described them with reluctance. They were careful as craftsmen in river in winter. Cautious as if we were about neighbors, reserved like a guest. Ephemeral like a melting ice, simple like a carved wood, open like a valley, marked like a poodle. But those who can be like a poodle can become clear when they steal, and those who can be at rest become alive when they're roused. Those who treasure in this way don't try to be seen, not trying to be seen, they can hide and stay hidden. Although the ancient masters live in the world, no one thought they were special. Darkness is what penetrates everything, but what cannot itself be perceived. To be careful means to act only after taking precautions. To be cautious means to refrain from acting because of doubt or suspicion. Melting ice reminds us of how mere things arise when delusion and never stay still. Uncovered wood reminds us to put an end to human fabrication and return to our original nature. Fire reminds us how encompassing emptiness is, and upward reminds us that we are no different from anything else. Lao Tzu expressed reluctance at describing those who succeed in cultivating the Tao, because he knows that the truth cannot be perceived, only the outside, the outward form. The essence of the Tao consists in nothing other than taking care. If people took care to let each thought be detached and each action be well considered, where else would they find the Tao? Hence, those who master the Tao in the past were so careful they waited until a river froze before crossing. They were so cautious they waited until the wind died before the venturing forth at night. They were orderly and respectful, as if they were guests arriving from distant land. They were relaxed and detached as if material forms didn't matter. They were as uncomplicated as uncovered wood, as hard to fathom as murky water. They were still themselves to concentrate their spirit, and they roused themselves to strengthen their breath. In short, they guarded the center. All of these similes are meant to describe without actually denoting. By means of intuitive understanding, the dark becomes bright. By means of tranquility, the murk becomes clear. By means of movement, the still becomes alive. This is the natural way. Those who treasure the way fit in without making a show, and stay forever hidden. Hence, they don't leave any tracks. That's all. Lao Tzu, Tao Te Ching, number 15. Lao Tzu, Tao Te Ching, number 13. Favor and disgrace can be rewarding. Honor and disaster can be rewarding. Why do favor and disgrace can be rewarding? Favor turns into disfavor, gaining becomes rewarding. Losing becomes rewarding because the favor and disgrace can be rewarding. And why do honor and disaster move your body? The reason we have disaster is because you have a body. If you didn't have a body, we wouldn't have disaster. Thus, those who honor their body more than the word can be trusted with the word. Those who cherish their body more than the word can be charged with the word. People who are favored and honored. And because they are honored, they act proud. And because they act proud, they are hated. And because they are hated, they are disgraced. And hence, sages consider success as well as favor to be warning. The ancient sages worried about favor as much as disgrace because they knew that favor is followed by disgrace. Other people think favor means to ascend and disgrace means to descend. But favor cannot be separated from disgrace. Disgrace results from favor. Those who gain favor and honor should worry about being too high, as if they were at the edge of a precipice. They should not flaunt their status or wealth, and those who lose favor and live in disgrace should worry more about disaster. Why does favor become disgrace and honor become disaster? Favor and honor are external things. They don't belong to us. When we try to possess them, they turn into disgrace and disaster. Normally, body means disaster, but if we honor and cherish it and follow natural order in our dealings with others, and we don't indulge our desires, we can avoid disaster. We all possess something good and noble that we don't have to seek outside ourselves. Something that the glory of power and position cannot compare with. People need only start with these and cultivate these without letting up. The ancient said, 2 or 3 years of hardship, 10,000 years of bliss. It isn't a matter of having no body, but of guarding source of life. Only those who refuse to trade themselves for something external are fit to receive the kingdom. Those who are affected by fear and disgrace or honor disaster are not fit to receive the kingdom. The superior prince can be entrusted with an orphan and child in the state and be unmoved by a crisis. That's it. Lao Tzu, Tao Te Ching, number 13. Lao Tzu, Tao Te Ching, number 56. Those who know don't talk, those who talk don't know. See the opening, close the gate, do the edge, untie the tangle. Soften the light, and join the dust. Live this dark union. It cannot be embraced, cannot be abandoned, cannot be helped, cannot be harmed, cannot be exalted, cannot be debased. Thus does the word exalted. Those who know value deeds, not words. A tin of horse cannot overtake the tongue. More talk means more problems. Those who grasp the truth forget about words. Those who don't practice what they talk about are no different from those who don't know. The Tao isn't talk, but it doesn't exclude talk. Those who know don't necessarily talk. Those who talk don't necessarily know. We see the opening, close the gate, and nourish the breath. We do the edge and untie the tongue to seal the spirit. Soften the light and join the dust to adapt to the times and get along with the world. By sealing the opening, we guard the exit. By closing the gate, we bar the entrance. By doing the edge, we adjust the inside. By untie the tongue, we straighten the outside. By softening the light, we focus ourselves. By joining the dust, we adopt others. What is the void to exit and entrance inside and outside, self and out, we call the dark union. Dark union unites all things but leaves no visible traces. If something can be embraced, it can be abandoned. If something can be helped, it can be harmed. If something can be exalted, it can be debased. Those who know transcend the mundane and the superficial, hence they cannot be embraced. They utter honestly, enables others to see. Hence they cannot be abandoned. They are content with desires. Hence they cannot be helped. They dwell beyond life and death. Hence they cannot be harmed. They view high position as so much dust. Hence they cannot be exalted beneath their rags, their heart or jade. Hence they cannot be debased. Those who know walk in the word and that their minds no sin material realm. Hence they are exalted by the word. Those who study open and close the gate neither love nor hate. Hence they don't embrace or want anything. Those who do the agent and hide the don't seek help. Thus they suffer no harm. Those who suffer the light enjoy the dust and exalt themselves. Thus they are debased by others. Forget self not the experience dark union with it all. Those who have not yet experienced dark union unite with these and separate from that. To unite means to embrace to help and to exalt. To separate means to abandon harm to the base. Those who experience dark union unite with nothing. From what then could they separate? Number 74. If people no longer fear death, what good is threatening to them then? If people truly fear death and some act of harassment who catch can kill, then who else would dare? As long as people fear death, the executioner will exist. The king executioner's place is the king of place. Those who couldn't capture this place shall escape if they stand intact. Lao Tzu asks, if people are afraid to die, what good is threatening to them then? If people are not afraid to die, it's because punishments are excessive. When punishments are excessive, people don't care about life. When they don't care about life, the rules might mean nothing to them. When punishments are moderate, people are afraid to die. They are afraid to die because they enjoy life. When you know they enjoy life, then you can threaten them with death. This implies that punishment cannot be relied upon for governing. If people are not afraid of death, what use is threatening them with execution? And if they are afraid of death and we catch someone who breaks the law and we execute them, like any one person, we should be able to govern the rest. But the more people we kill, the more people break the law. Thus punishment is not the answer. When I first ascended to the throne, people were ruled and ruled by officials corrupt. If 10 people were executed in the morning, 100 were breaking the same law by evening. Being ignorant of the way of the ancient sage kings, I turned into the Tao Te Ching. When I read, if people no longer fear death, what good is threatening to do then? I decided to do away with capital punishment and put criminals to work instead. In the years since then, the burdens of my heart have been lightened. Truly, this book is the greatest teacher of kings. Perverse means unlawful. If those who act perverse and break the law do not leave misfortune at the hands of humankind, they will certainly be punished by heaven. If rulers teach according to the Tao and people respond with perverse instead, rulers are within the rights to arrest them and kill them. Lao Tzu, however, was concerned that rulers should use the Tao first before turning punishment. The meaning of the executioner will exist is the same as the net of heaven as I'm embracing. Its mesh is wide, but nothing escapes. The executioner is heaven. Heaven is the executioner. If the words at pace and people engage in perverse and rebellion, then surely they have been abandoned by heaven. If you kill them, it is heaven who kills them, and not us. But if you kill those whom heaven has not abandoned, we take the executioner's place. And anyone who takes the executioner's place puts themselves within reach as his ex. A great cabinet is not good. The wise are not alone in desiring something greater than life and hating something greater than death. This is true for everyone, but the wise don't forget it. Lao Tzu, Tao Te Ching, number 74. The I Ching, the Book of Changes. Chi Chi, after completion. Good fortune falls for those who remain in guard against the fairy influence. The synonym indicates that the movement from chaos to war is complete. This time is extremely favorable, and you are likely to enjoy much success as long as you heed the wiring of Chi Chi. Remains on guard against incorrect thoughts, attitudes, and actions, both in yourself and in others. We arrive at a beneficial situation by following the path of correct conduct. When we have achieved success or are close to it, it's in our nature to want to relax and allow the ego to bask in glory. If you revert to this sort of carelessness, now you will undo all that you have worked to build. It's important not to become indifferent to spiritual details at this time, either thought or action, even words or incorrectness. Discard it and return to the path of the sage immediately. 1 minute we dip our toe in incorrectness, the next minute we are swimming in it, and the next we drown. Therefore, it's wiser to simply keep our toes dry in the first place. You are also concealed to remain alert with your influence in others. You cannot prevent misfortunes by dissipating in advance. This is achieved to watchfulness. The image of Chi Chi is that of a kettle of water boiling over a fire. There is a great power here, but it's lost if one allows the water to boil over or evaporate through carelessness and indifference. Alertness and conscientiousness, adherence to what is correct, are called for if you wish to prolong your good fortune down. To get drunk with the possibility of success and rush carelessly forward invites disaster. Proceed slowly and thoughtfully, and your progress will endure. If you do not have the cooperation of recognition of others, do not chase after it or condemn them harshly. Through modesty and acceptance, you gain your objectives. You lose what you have gained if you allow your fear quiet to take over. Chaos is avoided through conscientiousness correctness. The best of time quickly turns sour if you relax into carelessness. Be on guard at all times. The high power looks not only at our actions, but into our hearts to gouge our worthiness. To genuine in modesty, acceptance, and innocence, you are correct, your own errors, and set an example for others. If you stop to admire grace and cross the stream, you will slip and fall. By steadfastly keeping your eye on what is correct to ensure your good fortune. That's it. One more of the I Ching, Book of Changes. Lao Tzu, Tao Te Ching, number 27. Good walk, leave no tracks. Good talking contains no flaws. Good content got no beats. Good closing locks no locks, and yet it cannot be open. Good tying ties no knots, and yet it cannot be undone. Sages are good to saving others. Therefore, they abandon no one or anything of use. This is called clothing light. Does the good speak bad, and the bad learn for the good. Not only the teachers or chancellor students, the wise and one are perfectly blind. This is called peering into distance. Good refers to our original nature before our parents were born. Before anything develops within us, we possess this goodness. Good means natural. Those who are good at walking find their way within themselves, not somewhere outside. When they talk, they choose their words. When they count, they don't go beyond one. When they close themselves to desire and protect their spirit. When they tie, they secure their mind. Sages move through the world with an empty self and accept the way things are. Hence they leave no tracks. They do not insist that their own ideas are right and accept the words of others. Hence they reveal no flaws. They do not care about life and death, much less profit and loss. Hence they cut no beads. They do not set traps, yet nothing escapes them. Hence they use no locks. They are not kind, yet everyone flocks to them. Hence they tie no knots. This life tells us to refrain from acting and to govern things by relying on their nature rather than on their form. The salvation of sages does not involve salvation, for if someone is saved, someone is abandoned. Hence, sages do not save anyone at all. Hence, because they do not save anyone, they do not abandon anyone. To cloak means to use an outer garment, to cover an inner garment. If the work of salvation becomes apparent and people see it, it cannot be called good. One way it's hidden, it's good. The good always look the light. The good are like water, free of impurity and without fault on their part. They show people their true likeness, thus they instruct the bad. But unless the students can forget the teacher, their vision will be obscured. Sages do not care about teaching, hence they do not love their students. And the world does not care about learning, hence people do not honor their teachers. Sages not only forget the word, they make the word forget them. One more of the Tao Te Ching. That's good. Lao Tzu, Tao Te Ching, number 63. Act without acting, work without working, understand without understanding. Great or small, many or few, repay each wrong with virtue. Pay for the hard while it's easy, deal with the great while it's small. The word hardest task begins easy, the word's greatest goal begins small. Says therefore never act great. They does achieve great goals, who quickly agrees is seldom trusted. Who thinks things easy finds them hard. Says therefore think everything hard and thus find nothing hard. To To act without acting means to do only what's natural. To work without working means to avoid trouble but to gain advance. To understand without understanding means to understand the meaning of the power of meditation. When we act without acting, we don't exalt ourselves. When we work without working, we don't trouble others. When we understand without understanding, we don't waste anything. What people involves action, what stages work without no action. Work refers to the conditions of actions. Understanding refers to the meaning of action. To act without acting, work without working, but understand without understanding is conform with what is natural and not to impose oneself on others. Though others which stages wrong, they wrong, and there's in other stages. Stages wrong with the virtue within their hearts, utterly empty and detached, they thus influence others to trust in doing nothing. Action involves form and thus includes great and small. It is also tied to number and thus includes many few. This is where wrongs come from. Only the dogs beyond form and beyond number. Thus sages treat everything the same, great and small, many few. Why should they respond to them with anger? If we repay wrong with kindness, we put an end to revenge. If we repay wrongs with wrongs, we revenge and advance. In terms of form, the great necessarily starts from the small. In terms of duration, the many necessarily starts from the few. Wise rulers detect small schemes and thus avoid great plots. They enact minor punishments and thus avoid major rebellions. In the beginning, I found it easy to rule the kingdom. Now I find it hard. Guo Yan replied, if you consider something easy, it is bound to become hard. If you consider something hard, it is bound to become easy. If rulers disdain something as easy, misfortune and trouble are sure to arise from it. If they do not pay attention to small matters, eventually they will overwhelm even the greatest creature. The sages guard against insignificant lest it amount to something great. If they wait until something is great before they act, the action will come too late. When I entered the mountains to create the way, at first it was very hard, but once I learned how to use my mind, it became very easy. What the world considers hard, the sages consider easy. What the world considers easy, the sages consider hard. Number 63, Lao Tzu, Tao Te Ching. One more reading. Hua Hu Qing, the unknown teachings of Lao Tzu. Do you wish to free yourself from mental, emotional knots, or become one with it all? If so, there are two paths available to you. The first is the path of acceptance. Everyone, affirm everyone and everything. Feel extend your goodwill and virtue in every direction, regardless of circumstances. Embrace all things as part of their harmonious oneness, and then you will begin to pursue it. The second path is that of denial. Recognize that everything you see and think is falsehood and illusion. A veil over the truth. You all the veils away, and you will arrive at the oneness. Though these paths are entirely different, they will deliver you to the same place, spontaneous awareness of the great oneness. Once you arrive there, remember, it is necessary to struggle to remain in unity with it. All you have to do is rest in it. Thinking and talking about the integral way are not the same as practicing it. Whoever became a good writer by talking about horses. If you wish to embody Tao, stop chattering and start practicing. Relax your body and quiet your senses. Return your mind to its original quality. Forget about being separated from others and from the answers. As you return to the oneness, do not think of it or be in all of it. This is just another way of separating from it. Simply imagine the truth and allow it to surround you. Those who want to know the truth of the universe will practice for cardinal riches. Not here. Number 52. Do you think you can clear your mind by sitting constantly in silent meditation? This makes your mind narrow, not clear. Integral awareness is fluid and adaptable, present in all places and all times. This is true meditation. Who can attain clarity simply by avoiding the word? The thought is clear and simple, and it doesn't avoid the word. Why not simply honor your parents, love your children, help your brothers and sisters, be faithful to your friends, care for your mate, with devotion, connect your work with the dignity. And joyfully assume responsibility for others, practice a future without first demanding of others. Understand the highest truths yet retain, and in our manner, that would be through clarity, through simplicity, through mastery. That's it. Lao Tzu Tao Te Ching, number 29. Try to govern the world with force and see not in succeeding. The word is spiritual thinking, not be forced. The force is to harm, to control, to lose it something. Sometimes things lead, sometimes they fall, sometimes they blow hot, sometimes they blow cold, sometimes they expand, sometimes they collapse. Therefore, avoid streams, avoid travelers, avoid cysts. We cannot control something as insignificant as the most seed. How we control something as big as the world. Those who would govern the world should trust what's natural. Those who cannot control consciously, it's too big a thing. The world can only be governed by the spirit, not by human strength or intelligence. Spiritual things respond to things, they cannot be controlled with force. The word is a thing, spiritual thing. Only the spiritual thought can control spiritual thing. Spiritual things nothing correct. Trying to control things with force is not the way. Force refers to the utilization and deployment of troops, but the word spirit cannot be controlled by weapons. Says consider the body as transitory as the word as temporary logic. How can they rule what is not theirs and lose the true and everlasting way? The interchange of yin yang and high and low, great and small is the way things are and cannot be avoided. Fools are selfish. They insist on having their own way and meet with disaster. Says no, they cannot oppose things. They agree with whatever they meet. They eliminate streams and thereby keep the word from harm. How do those who gain control of the word keep the word from harm? Says understand that things necessarily move between opposites, but that there is a way to adjust this movement. Things that prosper too much must wither and die. By keeping things from prospering too much, they keep from withering and dying. Says penetrate the nature and condition of others, hence they respond to them with the force, without force, and follow them without effort. They eliminate whatever misleads or confuses others so that their minds become clear and each realize their own nature. Resting where you eliminate extremes, pleasure, simplicity, eliminate extravagance, being content, eliminate excess. Says get rid of streams of kindness, they get rid of extravagance, simplicity, they get rid of excessive humility. By means of these three, says govern the word. What Lao Tzu means by extremes, by extravagance, by excess is not what people mean nowadays. Lao Tzu means whatever involves increasing forward beyond what is easy. Okay, one more technique of reading. Lao Tzu number 29. One more reading. The map of consciousness explained. Look at the map of consciousness. From shame to pride. In addition to the general attractions and aversions that keep the ego alive, there are those specific to each level that hold in its place. Considering a level is automatically when attraction is related, and the aversion surrendered to. Shame is a consequence of negations of realities of both self and self. Attraction is to punish yourself, judge yourself, mortify yourself, be negative, stay depressed, be severe, inflexible, hide, and hang your head. The aversion is to forgive yourself, being yourself just as you are, affirming the gift of life, choosing self-worth, honoring yourself, taking care of your body, and embracing your innate lovability. Guilt and hate stem from secret pleasure, the ego derives from negativity. Letting go of guilt and hatred benefits all levels of life. All these ego positions are corrosive to self and others. The attraction is to blaming a perpetrator, self or others aside, and the automatic indulgence of penance, sackcloth and ashes. And the strange pride of look how sinful I am, all of which keeps you stuck in guilty and self-hatred. Penance tends to be episodic, spiritual growth is permanent. The aversion is to mercy and compassion for self and others, receiving the mercy of God, giving up being right, and the willingness to take responsibility and make the change. Apathy is classically counterbalanced by faith, hope, and charity. The benefit of helping others is well demonstrated throughout society, whether it comes about through choice, inspiration, or even coercion. God ordered community service. The attraction is self-pity, hopelessness, and helplessness. His love is a cardinal sin in Christianity because it negates the divine gift of your life. The ego payoff is to see yourself as not worth the effort, to be passive rather than inactive, to reject for help, and to say, I can't, I'm incapable. The aversion is to take action, ask for help, show interest in life, join, and is not, isolate. That's it, just one more small reading. The map of consciousness explained, a preliminary scale. The role of grace. Heaven and hell are only 1/10 of an inch apart. We can be at the bottom of the map extreme. Time is like looking upon the entreaty of the spiritual view. If there is a God asking for help, A shocking transformation cruising in which the infinite glory of God shines forth from all existence. For some people, it is only in the very pits of hell and absurd despair that the ego can be surrendered, even right up to the point of imminent physical death. The grace of God awaits those who sincerely ask, and divinity does not force anyone to evolve. Everyone is accountable to the universe and is subject to divine justice by the very dynamics of the universe itself. Like a cork in the sea, each soul flows to the level of its own buoyance, which is not due to some arbitrary act by the sea. There is no hand on the tiller, but one's own, which is the total freedom accorded to life by God. No one falls but by their own hand. Even the supposed extent of occurrence is mere perception. There are no accidents in the universe, nor are they even a possibility. Accident simply means that something is unpredictable or incomprehensible. To the linear ego, and its limitations with the Newtonian paradigm of cause and effect, which can raise at 450. People congregate in the groups because they are aligned with similar attractor field. Beards of fairy flocks together. Physical expression. Each one individual is following a powerful magnetic field, magnetic-like field that in turn is subject to the next higher attractor field and so on to divinity. Although conflicts may appear being impossible to resolve, the resolution can actually be surprisingly simple through strict adherence to the proven tools of spiritual processing. That is, the willingness to surrender to God, and to let go of resistance by invoking the power of spiritual will calibrated by 1950. In asking for divine assistance, one can request help from the Holy Spirit along with the mission of the truth that I myself, the ego, am unable to accomplish this step alone. Operationally, this is actually a request to remain and conceptualize the situation differently, and thus the soul apparent paradoxes. The conflict are barrier the soul as soon as we see it from a mere expanded view, which is given by grace as a relation and reconciliation. The personal will operates only at the level of a person's liberated level of consciousness given time, its evolution, and is therefore frequently too weak to effect the desired change. Best of force the change via the ego's mechanism may result in dogma like self-confidence and a refusal to face the issue out of defeatism. This is commonly expressed by the statement "I tried," which is actually a fact. It is the small self that tried, which is more often unleashed than decisive action. Good intentions founder on the rocks of personal willpower, which is frequently used as a moral club that evokes for the youth and self-blame. True deep surrender to God or higher power cannot actually take place without surrendering the illusion of personal willpower, replacing it with a declarative decision. The ego resists the surrender of control because it derives pleasure from the payoffs of whatever positionality one is stuck in. Therefore, the ego creates resistance in the form of fears, including expectations of discomfort, loss, from change, or fear of failure. This, however, represents spiritual pride, which also needs to be surrendered. To transcend the barrier, therefore, it's helpful to declare oneself a servant of God and to devote oneself to spiritual work in the name of God, which puts one's intention to evolve an infinitely powerful field of asking for the grace to surrender detachments, aversions, and ego payoffs that hold each level and in place. That's it. One more reading the map of consciousness. Rule of grace. The experiencer is the processor that constantly determines what's good, what's poisonous, what's the enemy, who's the friend. And very quickly, in 1/10,000th of a second, it processes enormous banks of information. No combination of computers could possibly do it. It's just far too complex because it includes value, meaning significance, prioritization. A computer cannot do that because it does not value one thing higher than another. A computer does not think more highly of his bit of information than it does of that information, which your ego's processor does. So just another reading, The Greater Ties and Stages of Enlightenment, Volume 2. Further, the Tantra bestowed the initiation of Vajrapani Abhiseka Mahatantra sage, who greeted Bodhisattva. Manjuri's tantric mandala is the hidden secret, infathomable, very profound and vast. It is unsuitable to teach it to sinful beings. Vajrapani, each say this mandala is very rare. Since I have not heard about it, to whom should it be explained? Vajrapani replied, Manjusri, once those who have entered meditation in the spirit of enlightenment have attained it. Manjusri, these bodhisattvas who practice the bodhisattva teach the door to Tantra should enter into the tantric mandala of the great sublime wisdom initiation. However, those who have not fully attained the spirit of enlightenment should not enter it. They should not even enter in Siddhi mandala. Moreover, do not teach them the gestures and mantras. Therefore, it is not sufficient that the teaching be a Mahayana teaching. It is crucial that the person be a Mahayana practitioner. Furthermore, functioning as Mahayana practitioner depends solely on realizing the spirit of enlightenment. Hence, you have not have only intellectual understanding of this spirit. Then you likewise have only intellectual understanding of what it means to be a Mahayana practitioner. If the spirit is completely perfect, then the Mahayana practitioner is genuine. So strive for this. In regard to this, the array of Stauks Sutra, Ganda Vyuha Sutra says, O child of good lineage, the spirit of enlightenment is like the seed of all the Buddha qualities. Because you must fully comprehend this statement, I will explain it. When water, manure, warmth, earth, etc. combine with rice seed, they act as the cause of the rice sprout. If they combine with the seeds of wheat peas, etc., they act as the cause of this type of sprouts. Therefore, these factors are the general cause of the sprouts. But it's impossible for a barley seed through it combines with the conditions to be the cause of sprout of rice and so on. Thus, a barley seed is the specific cause of barley sprout, and the water, manure, and so forth that are linked with the seed become the general cause of the barley sprout. Likewise, the spirit of unsurpassed enlightenment is like the seed of the specific cause of Mount, the general causes of the sprout of the Buddhahood. The wisdom that knows emptiness is the general cause of the three types of enlightenment: the Savaka, Pratika Buddha, and the Bodhisattva, just as water, manure, etc. are the general cause of sprouts. Hence, my choice will continue. Uttara Tantra also states that aspirations from equals the seed. Wisdom is the model for generating Buddha qualities. That's it. One more reading, The Greater Ties, Volume 2. The Greater Ties and Stages of Spiritual Enlightenment, Volume 2. Change yourself in order. However, since the beginning of time, you have found your own suffering bearable because you have been conditioned to self-charity. Therefore, if you become conditioned to such charity in others, you will give rise to an attitude of finding others suffering unbearable. If you had replaced concern for your own welfare with concern for others' welfare, you would suddenly have already become a Buddha on your own and would have completely and perfectly accomplished your own aims as well of others. Self-cherishing has armed me in all myriad lifetime cyclic existence. You, oh mind, though you spent countless eons wanting to accomplish your own welfare, through such great hardship, you have accomplished your own suffering, and also, you formerly had acted for others' welfare, this condition which lacks the perfect happiness of Buddhahood could not possibly have occurred. Engaging, Bodhisattva did say, I am controlled by others. You, oh mind, know this for certain. Now do not think of anything other than the welfare of all beings. It is wrong to achieve in my own aims, with my eyes etc. that are under one's control. Therefore, it is incorrect to do wrong to others, with my eyes etc. that are for their welfare. If you lose the thought that your body is set for others' welfare, and think that they are for your own benefit, or if you see them as agents of physical, verbal, or mental harm to others, then stop this way of thinking by contemplating how this prevalence is brought. You limit harm and how you are still mistaken with regard to its appearance of helpfulness, which is false. If you're controlled by this wrong way of thinking, it produces only unbearable suffering. Gage Bodhisattva says, when you self-challenge ruining me before, that was another time, I'll recognize you, where will you go? I will destroy all your arrogance, dispel the thought. I still have my own welfare. I have sold you my mind to others. I do not obey the spirit that offer your image. If I become careless and do not give up you to beings, you will certainly give me over to the guardians of hell. Thus you gave me over to long periods of suffering. Now I remember my grudges. I will destroy your selfish thoughts. Through affectionately viewing the others as dear and beloved as much as you can, develop an attitude to cherish others to the degree to which you previously cherish yourself, cherish others as you do to yourself. Right? The Bodhisattva states, living beings and conquerors are similar from then you achieve a Buddha quality. How it's that you do not respect living beings just as you respect conquerors. That's it. Another reading on the Great Ties of Spirits, the Stage of Death and Life, Volume 2. Another reading, the great ties, is things of enlightenment. Provincial happens thinking, since the mind is not material, it cannot be directly harmed by others. While the mind is indirectly harmed by directly harming the body cannot be harmed by contemplative speech and implicit words. This harm neither body nor mind, so I should be delighted. When you prevent your unhappiness, you do not give rise to hostility, it just doesn't engage in the what's what it says. Since the mind is not physical, no one can ever destroy it. It is strongly attached to the body, so it's harmed by physical suffering. Contemplative speech and unpleasant words do not harm the body. Then why, mind, are you so angry? Sharavasena. No matter what the three geshes, Kangang Ba, Neu Sur Ba, Zneu Zur Ba, and Drag Ba, Grab Ba heard, it was no different from speaking to dirt and rocks, so they remain happy. Since everyone nowadays reacts quickly to what he said, they become unhappy. When somebody whispered from Shengdong, this and stone, he said this and then that. Shengdong replied, people also say things behind this king's back. You have committed the physical speech, so confess it. When someone said to the yogi, Shai Rab Dorjai, says Rab Dorjai, people were talking about us and saying that our attendants are two legs. He replied, well, the talk of the people will be about people. What else would they talk about? Thereafter, that person completely stopped the spread of his disease in his speech. Objection. When someone has something for me, etc., other people will not like me. So this is why I'm unhappy about it. Reply. This would have some truth if others dislike were to harm you. However, since their dislike does nothing to you, give up your unhappiness about others' contempt. Engage with the deed says, what others dislike for me does not devour me. Is this of others' lives? Why am I aversive to it? Objection. Indeed, I am not harmed by the dislike, but it depends, or it may be hindered in acquiring things from them. So you get angry at those who have contempt for me, scorn me, or say unpleasant words to me. Reply. Even if you acquire things, you must leave them. Whereas the sin of your anger at them will follow you. Hence, of the two choices, dying quickly in destitution or living for a long time improperly, the former is better. Even if you acquire things and live for a long time, you must die, since you are not liberated from death. At the time of death, the same whether you have enjoyed pleasure for perhaps 100 years or enjoyed it for merely 1 year. For both alternatives are nothing more than more objects of memory. And at the time, it makes no difference at all for your happiness or suffering. It's analogous to how in a dream the experience of pleasure for 100 years and experience of mere 1 moment pleasures have no difference at all with respect to happiness or unhappiness at the time of waking. When you contemplate in this way and turn away from attachment to gain honor, you will not become unhappy with unpleasant words or contempt. You have no interest in being special eyes of others, so you do not lose your contentment. Doesn't get beside the states. While I do not like contempt and so forth, because they interfere with my prosperity, I leave my acquisitions here, but firmly keep my sins. Bad that I die today, that I live long and proper life. Those like me, might live a long time, but then there is only the suffering of that. Someone might wake from a dream after experiencing happiness for 100 years. Another might wake from a dream after experiencing happiness for a mere moment. For both reference, one day awake and happiness does not return. It is like at the time of death, while your life was long or short. After acquiring many things, I may enjoy pleasure for a long time, but just like one robbed by a thief, I will leave naked and empty-handed. That's just another reading. The Great Ties, Volume 2, and that's it. Greater Ties, page 3. Independent rising happiness. When the noble truth exists, then the sublime teaching also makes sense. When the sublime teaching and community exists, then the Buddha are possible as well. Therefore, the three views also make sense. Our profound knowledge of everything mundane and supermundane makes sense. Proper and improper conduct, the results of that, having insuperable rebirths and outward conventions make sense as well. Therefore, in that way, Nagarjuna says, for those to whom emptiness makes sense, everything makes sense. If emptiness did not make sense, the independent horizon would not exist, and so nothing would make sense. Therefore, you should understand that what makes sense and what does not make sense, and you refer to whether those things exist. As I later an objection by essentially superiors in Nagarjuna's repetition of the objections. If all things are completely without intrinsic nature, then your words also lack intrinsic nature, and thus cannot refute intrinsic existence. The Master Nagarjuna clearly answers that functionalities tenable with the contest of the absence of intrinsic existence. The repetition of objections. We perform the dependent arising of things is called emptiness, that which arise dependently, has no intrinsic nature. Also, Nagarjuna also commentary on the repetition of objections, Vigraha, Via, Vartini, Verti, Heseks. Failing to comprehend the emptiness of things, you essentially look for something to criticize and argue against the Madhyamikas, saying, your words lack intrinsic nature, and therefore cannot refute intrinsic existence of things. Here, in Madhyamaka, the dependent arising of things is emptiness. Why? Because they lack intrinsic nature. Those things that arise dependently are not associated with intrinsic nature because they lack intrinsic nature. Why? Because they rely on causal conditions. If things had intrinsic nature, then they would exist even without causal conditions. Since such is not the case, they lack intrinsic nature. Therefore, we speak of them as empty. Similarly, our words are also dependent arising, therefore are without intrinsic nature. Because they lack intrinsic nature, it's reasonable to say that they are empty. Because things such as walls and cloth are dependent arising, they are empty of intrinsic nature. Yet a pot can receive in honey, water and soap, a cloth can protect one from the cold, wind and sun. And so it is with my words, because they are dependent arising, they lack intrinsic nature, yet they are fully capable of establishing that things lack intrinsic existence. Therefore, it's not appropriate for you to give arguments, because your words lack intrinsic nature, it's not tenable that they refute intrinsic existence of all things. Just one more reading of the Great Ties, Volume 3. Another reading in the way of chance, 1b. Returning back to such issue, and that such issue is very mind about heaven and earth itself. Whatever movement ceases, stillness begins, but there's no opposition between movement and stillness. Whatever words and silence begins, but there's no opposition between silence and words. In speaking of no opposition between movement and stillness, one piece describes the unity of absence and presence in the empirical cosmos, in the personal action and consciousness. In speaking of no opposition between silence and words, he describes the unity of absence and presence in the realm of consciousness. Movement and stillness are both the self-nature of absence. A person of way depends on how he makes use of both movement and stillness. Right? Without the change. Absence is the origin of presence in every particular. When it has no form and no name, absence originates the 10,000 things, and the rest of submissions give birth to them. When it has form and name, it completes them, fosters and shelters them. Nurtures them, nurtures them as a mother. Lao Tzu says, way, having form and no name, both originates the 10,000 things and completes them. And after the realization and completion of those things, know nothing. Here lies the dark enigma deep within dark enigma. Heaven and earth is to nothing. The friction through absence, action occurs appearance of itself. It's the inner pattern of these 10,000 things that shapes their movements together. Number 5. Number 6. The valley spirit is absence at the valley center. Absence without form or image, resistance or sensation. It abides low and notice it. Keeps still and rests completely, so it never scrambles with age. It completes us, but we cannot see its form. It's reflection of things themselves. And because it abides so low and notice it, we cannot name it. Therefore, we call dark female enigma. Number 7. If you free of yourself, you are yourself of sense action. You let yourself last, and so first yourself even up, and so preserve it. In this, as Lao Tzu says, you become yourself. Number 7. That's the secret behind the position of the absence action. Show your greatest self, your higher self. Number 23. It's through formless absence, through absence action, that we complete and nurtures the 10,000 things in their vast transformations. Practice absence action, practice the word is teaching that cannot be taught, then you move in accordance with the way. Number 32. Uncovered simplicity itself has absence as its mind. Absence before names, and so if you want to master way, there's nothing like abiding in uncovered simplicity. This uncovered simplicity is confused without affinities. It's the realm between absence and presence. That's why Lao Tzu says it's subject to nothing now beneath heaven. To embrace uncovered simplicity and practice absence action, then the things of this world will never tangle white doesn't outline the absolute, and the desire of this world will never harm spirit, light, and awareness. In this, you are yourself a guest of the 10,000 things and master of the way. Right, one more. Number 38. How do you realize we help holy? Depend on absence for your actualization. If you depend on absence for your actualization, there's nothing you can sustain. However vast it dispenses, heaven and earth has absence as its mind. The certain true root resides in absence action. The water resides in the nameless. You may treasure using absence as actualization, but you can cast aside absence as potency. If you cast aside absence as potency, you lose all of its vastness. If you use absence as actualization, you attain the mother. Only by using labels can you true up the names of things, and only by using formulas can you perfect the forms of things. 40. Everything in belief having born of presence, and absence is the substitute root at the origin of presence. Presence only comes to completion when it turns back to absence. And number 42. The 10,000 forms of the 10,000 things are returned home to primary unity. What kind of emergence allows that they return to primary unity? They emerge from absence. And because the primary unity is the first emergence from absence, we call it absence. That's it. Just one more little reading of The Way of Chan, essential, text of original tradition. Thanks. Other reading of The Way of Chan, ongoing Chan. With Sunga's collections of Sangha keys practice, the Chen house was complete. Chen had generated and explored all its fundamental dimensions, and yet Chen remained ongoing in China. Historians generally say Chen withered there, its dynamic life transferred to Japan and eventually on the West. But the essential dimensions of the Chen remained right in China for all the centuries, even up to the present. There were no further developments and innovations in Chen's fundamental nature. Both then, there weren't in Japan or the West either. All the cultural elements were simply lost. Even while Chen flourished in Japan, his Zen development and the consolidation of distinctive characteristics, fundamental orientation seems to have faded. It was no longer built around the deep earth-generative cosmological ontology, had seen as the foundation of Chen's practice and liberation. And this abstract and nerveless Zen is the form of Chen that passed eventually onto America and in the West in the 20th century. As for China, Chen simply settled in as a conventional operation assumption among artists intellectuals, to take only one among countless examples, particularly illustrious, one stone waves, Shitao, and 8 mountain vast Pata Shenjin, who were working around 1700, a full 5 centuries after the supposed atrophy of Chen following the Sang. They were among the most singular innovative painters in the Chinese tradition, and both were Chen masters who considered their work very much a form of Chen practice and teaching. It was a typical assumption, and this Chen is miraculously ongoing text translated here, fully available to us as a body of assumptions about the nature of consciousness and cosmos. So we are today in much the same position as the later Chinese. The house is complete and wide open to us. All we need to do is walk around and join the rooms and terraces, the sumptuous mules and incomparable views. That's it. The final of the book of Chen. First reading of Gate Getaway, Delusional Woman Kwan. Number 1. Visitation land dog nature. A monk asked, must visitation land the dog to his good nature? No. Absence land replied. No gates comment. To penetrate the depths of Chen, you must pass through the gateway of our ancestral patriarchs. And to fight on the mysteries of enlightenment, we must get out the mind road completely. If you don't pass through the ancestral gateway, if you don't get out the mind road, you leave your ghost life, clinging to weeds and trees. What is this gateway of our ancestral patriarchs? The simplest of things, a single word, absence. Absence is the sole gateway of our ancestral gate household, and so it's called no gate gateway into Chen's ancestral household. That's of the way to reading meet master visitation land. That's why. Visitation land in the whole lineage of ancestral patriarchs too. You wander hand in hand with Danny, brow stand with theirs, looking with the same eyes, hearing with the same ears. How is that no great good fortune and wild joy? Don't you too long to pass through this gateway. To penetrate the depths of the single word, absence. All 360 bombs and joys, all 4,000 secret apertures of our intelligence, soon your whole being to sing a mass of doubt. Devote yourself day and night. Absence, don't think it's emptiness, and don't think it's presence. You will feel like you swallow a red-hot iron ball, wretched and wretched, it's something that won't vomit out. But let out the delusions of a lifetime, all the understanding on inside, and slowly, little by little, nurture simply efficacious appearance of itself. Soon in and out are single tissue, and you were like a mute in the midst of dream, all the understanding for self alone. Then suddenly the whole thing breaks wide open, and all heaven and earth shudder in astonishment. It's as if you will. It's natural general gateways, vast world away, and if you can carry it, eat whatever you go. If you meet a Buddha, you kill Buddha. If you meet ancestral patriarchs, you kill ancestral patriarchs. Out there walking the cliff edge between life and death, you perfectly self-possessed, vast and wide open, in such wild freedom, through all four transformations in 6 forms of existence. You wander with playfulness of somebody's 3 shadowed earth. Can you do it at the devout life, delve with all your lifelong chi strength into the single word, absence? Don't give up, and you'd soon see so easy. May spark setting the whole Dharma kingdom of fire. A dog, Buddha nature, the whole kitten Buddha revealed in the flesh. Think about presence, absence, in you long without a clue. That's one more reading. No great getaway. The original women qua. Number 9. Vast insights surpassing reason. A monk asked the master, like Inception Peak, the Buddha of vast insights surpassing reason, shared meditation for 10 kalpas and Buddha way terrace. But the Buddha Dharma never took shape for him. How is it? In other time, he never fully became a Buddha way starting seasons? A question to put exactly, reply like Inception. But the monk persisted. Of all the meditation Buddha way terrace, how is that he never fully became the Buddha way? Because he never became Buddha. I acknowledge that all the barbarians understand, but not his realization. When ordinary people become wise, they're sages. When sages become realized, they're ordinary people. How can clarity about self compare to clarity about mind at best? Clarity about mind, I fathom that clarity. In self is grief free. And if you know clarity about mind and self, clarity in clarity, what is there more regal for gods and mortals to declare novel? No great getaway, the original woman crown. Ordinary mind is the way. Visitation land asked, Wellspring of mountain, what is the way? Ordinary mind is the way, answered Master Wellspring. Still, it's something I can't set out the word, isn't it? To set out is to be taste from. But if you don't set out, how will you arrive at understanding the way? Way isn't something you can understand, and isn't something you cannot understand. Understanding is delusion, and not understanding is pure forgetfulness. If you truly comprehend this way that never sets out for somewhere else, if you enter into it absolutely, you realize it's exactly like the vast expanse of this universe. All generative emptiness you can see through into boundless clarity. Now can you force that incongruence with the logic of, yes, these you know that? Hearing these words, land was suddenly awakened. No gates comment. Question of visitation land. Wellspring of mountain went straight for roof tiles, scattering and mountain away. He graduated everywhere, but the stay water stay out. Stay put. Even though visitation land's awakening was bountiful, he had to practice it 30 more years before coming to full realization. Spring falls, 100 blossoms. Autumn moon, summer bring cool breezes. Winter soundless snow. Absence and inspirations, all wilderness, held in mind. Here among humankind, isn't that the perfect season? That's it. One more reading, the I Ching Book of Changes. Lu, the Wanderer. We are all wanderers in the unknown. Those who travel beside the sage are protected. A person travels as a stranger and stranger not his wise to display an attitude free of arrogance and belligerence. Otherwise, he is liable to meet with trouble and find himself unable to survive it. With Zexgram, the I Ching reminds us that we are all strangers in a strange land, wanderers investing in a unknowable universe, obliged to act accordingly. Think of how you would proceed if traveling alone in an unfamiliar country. You will be couched as a reserve, taking care not to fail, and with the wrong people or enter into dangerous places. You will not be thrown on the waters and generate generals towards those if it's through the roads, and you would be inclined to set as agreements quickly to keep them from getting out of hand. You would rely on your attentiveness, your modest attitude, and your gentle manner to keep you out of harm's way. Zexgram comes to remind you that it's wise to travel through your entire life into this fashion. Seek now to stay in quiet harmony with higher power, and to invoke caution while listening to your actions. Do not drag out disagreements with others. conflicts. Conflict is a poison that grows more dangerous every minute you are in it. Do not depart from the path of humility and correct and in doing so, you lose the protection of the deity and risk misfortune. By continually seeking to serve the innocent and the good, you stay in step with the sage and never wander along the word. The wanderer should not involve himself with inferior things, cling to the essential and the correct in your thoughts and actions. The wanderer who is modest and generous in spirit always seeks a resting place in the allegiance of steadfastness springs. The wanderer who is meddlesome and egoistical quickly loses his resting place. The current situation becomes dangerous if you do not return to neutrality and detachment. Desire and stress keep you from finding ease. Peace of mind comes when we let go of ambitions and fears and follow the sage from moment to moment. To win or out correctness, we assure our own good fortune. What is natural we do? With humility can meet success. One must not abandon the inner to do of the wandering. Through carelessness, you can quickly lose it all that you have gained it. One more reading, the I Ching. The I Ching, Book of Changes. Sun, the gentle, penetrating the wind. Constant correctness turns every situation to your advantage. The image of the hexagram is that of a gentle wind dispersing in storm clouds. A wind that changes direction often even above a very powerful one, which spreads nothing. It only steers up the sky. The wind that causes real changes is the one that blows consistently in the same direction. There's an important lesson for us in this example. When faced with a difficult problem to resolve our goal, we wish to achieve, we often attempt to take striking and energetic actions. Though it's possible to achieve our results in this fashion, they tend to collapse when we cannot sustain the vigorous effort. More enduring accomplishments are won through gentle but ceaseless concentration, like that of a soft wind blowing steadily in the same direction. The truth of the sage penetrates to us in this way. This hexagram comes now to remind you that this is how you should seek to penetrate others. The advice given to you by the I Ching is threefold. First, establish a clear goal. The wind that continues to change direction has no real effect. Second, apply the principle of gentle penetration to yourself by eliminating your own inferior qualities you earn an influence over others. Third, avoid aggressive or ambitious maneuvers now. Those are rooted in desire and fear and will only serve to block the eye of the creative. The desirable influence is the one that flows naturally from maintaining a proper attitude. Your interactions with others bend like the below, by remaining adaptable, balanced, accepting, independent, and by steadily moving in a single direction, you gain the clarity and strength that make possible a series of great success. You must be as resolute as you are against doubt and mistrust. When you can advance in practice to do so, when you cannot retreat without hesitation, a hidden enemy threatens. Search your subconscious for negative influences. The eye of a consular can be beneficial in this. When your sight penetrates to the source of the problem, do not dwell on it. The ego will become entangled. Simply make the necessary correction and persevere in it. We are in resolute, modest, independent, and correct. Our external difficulties magically pass away and success is assured. The beginning has not been good, but progress is still possible. Careful disengage from bad habits and remain steadfast and following proper principles. Things change for the better. Sometimes the inferior enemy cannot be identified. Do not struggle but quietly return to improve yourself. In this way, a good result can be still obtained. Another reading of the I Ching. Let's take one more reading of the I Ching. Number 34. The thought drifts, it can let go, it can go left or right, everything lives by its grace, but it doesn't speak when it works, succeeds. It makes no claim, it has no desires. Shall we call it small? Everything turns sweet, but it has no control. Shall we call it great? It can say it's direct great. It can does achieve great things. The drift means to be unrestrained. The Tao is neither yin nor yang, weak nor strong nor restrained. It can respond to all things in any direction. It is in one-sided, as trying to say the Tao has no borders. Those who are skilled toil, and those who are clever warrior. Meanwhile, those who do not possess such abilities seek nothing and yet eat their fill. They drift through life like unmoored boats. The Tao drifts everywhere. It can go left or right, it can go up or down, whatever we turn. It's there for us to use. The great way is a watery expanse that extends to 8 horizons. But when we use it, it's as close as our left or right hand. There's nothing that doesn't depend on it for life, and yet it never speaks of its power. There's nothing that doesn't happen without its help, and yet it never mentions its achievements. Outside of the Tao, there are no things. Outside of things, there's no Tao. The Tao gives birth to things, just as wind creates movement or water creates waves. Although living things might be infinite in number, the Tao creates them out through the mystery of doing nothing. It doesn't mind making so many, and it creates them without thinking about its powers. When the Tao becomes small, it doesn't stop being great, and when it becomes great, it doesn't stop being small. But all we see are its traces, and reality is neither small nor great. It can describe it. It can only be known. The Tao produces all things, and all things turn to it. It's like the sea. All strings empty into, and yet it doesn't control them. Even though there are no questions and cases, there are questions and no statements just as interesting. If we call someone something great, it is in the Tao. Those who are great and think themselves great are small. The Tao hides in what has no name and stays embodied to what has no name. They don't consider themselves great, and yet no one is great, for they can go left or right. Hence, they are neither small nor great, and because they are neither small nor great, they can do great things. That's all. No more reading of the Tao Te Ching. Yes. One more reading of Lao Tzu Tao Te Ching. 35. Hold up the great image in the word will come, be beyond harm, safe and serene at peace. Find food and song, don't detain guests long. Thus the Tao speaks plain words that make no sense. We look but don't see, we listen but don't hear, yet we use it without end. Here hold means to hold without holding, to hold what cannot be held. The great image is the great way which gives birth to heaven and earth and all creatures. It is called great because it encompasses everything. The great image has no form. What has no form is the great and empty way. To hold means to focus or to keep. Those who can keep their body in the realm of dark virtue and focus their mind on the gate of hidden serenity possesses the way. All things comes to them. Clouds appear and all creatures are refreshed. Rain pours down and all plants are nourished. And these blessings come from such a simple thing. To come to no harm means to be protected. But when people turn to sages, there's no protection to protect them. If they protected people with protection and harm would both exist. But by protecting people with no protection, people are always protecting people from harm. Unharmed our spirit is safe, unharmed our belief is serene, unharmed our nature is at peace. Sages rule the world through selflessness. All things come to them because they are one with all things. And while they forget themselves in others, others forget themselves in them, as all things find their peace. And none of them, and there are none that are not at peace. What the Tao says is the opposite of the mundane or the clever. Most people find it completely senseless, but within it senseless there is great sense. This is what sages favor. The Tao prefers simplicity of form and a minimum of expression. Hence it is hard to see and hard to hear and also hard to follow. But those who can follow it and then use it enjoy limitless blessings. A great person's words are plain like water. A small person's words are sweet like wine. The plainness of a great person brings people closer, while the sweetness of a small person drives them apart. Those who come together for no reason separate for no reason. Banquets offer entertainment might detain visitors, but sooner or later the food runs out, the news gains and the visitors leave. If someone entertained the world with the great image, no one would know how to love it, much less hate it, although it has no taste, shape, or sound with which to please people. Those who use it, it can never exhaust it. If someone used it out to govern the country would be rich, and the people would be prosperous. If someone used it with themselves, that would be only the length of their life. The great image is te, of virtue manifestation of te. I follow the quote animal what to eat, texts in adding ku. Thus, 2 lines 7 lines 9 and 10 are also echoed in verse 14. We look but don't see it, and we call it indistinct. We listen but don't hear, and call it faint. That's it. One more reading. Tao Te Ching.